To everyone. Good to see everyone today. Nice sunny day. Wasn't able to enjoy yesterday so much, but Friday I was. Do you think this is loud enough? Okay. Yeah. On Friday, my kids began spring break on Friday. And so they had a doctor's appointment at first, but, here it is. And after their doctor's appointment in the afternoon, we called up old Derek over there, and we got out on the disc golf course. And there's actually photographic evidence of this event with Derek, and if you look closely, there's some sort of Sasquatch in the background. That's I didn't know those things were real, but he got a picture of one. So, but now this was an important day for me. It was very competitive. It's Derek against me, and we both take one of my two boys as teammates, and then Hazel's the referee. She throws a couple around every once in a while. I'm trying to be real humble here, okay? I don't want to brag, but I never beat Derek in disc golf, all right? He's really good, and I'm not. But what happened the last two times we were out is that Derek showed me a couple secrets, okay? He shouldn't have done this. I warned him. He showed me some of his methods, some of his tactics, some of his skills. One of them, it seems really counterintuitive. It's about how you hold the disc and how the angle of your wrist when you release this thing. And it seems totally illogical to me. How could this frisbee go anywhere but straight into the ground when I release it? It doesn't make sense. But to a veteran like Derek, it makes total sense. That's actually the only way that you can make this thing work. Otherwise, it just goes way up and goes behind you or something like that. So I'm like, fine, I'll try it. This is totally illogical. It seems stupid, but I'll do it. And I did it, and I started to throw this thing straight and far, and it was awesome. And so huge mistake by Derek, but I actually have now defeated Derek in my career, so I'm very proud of that, but I owe it to him, and it's his own fault, so. Yeah. Yeah. We're looking at a story today in John 12 that is about something else that seems very illogical, something that doesn't make sense, and it's also about a secret. A couple of different secrets, actually. A profound secret that's revealed that has to do with Jesus and the fact that he is going to die soon and be buried. That's one of the big secrets that's revealed in this text. But there's another secret about discipleship that we learn from what is basically in John's gospel the pinnacle, utmost example of true discipleship. And that is this woman named Mary. We read this story earlier in John chapter 12. He notes in verse 1 that it's just about a week before the Passover. So he's framing this story within the context of Passover, which Dave Schallert mentioned is going to be the context of Jesus' death, the crucifixion. So there's these undertones in this story of the death of Jesus, and Jesus knows about this, but no one else does. No one else knows this secret or understands it except this woman named Mary. That's why it's such a special story. There's only one person that knew besides Jesus, and she expresses that in the most profound way. So they're a week before Passover. They're at Bethany, where Lazarus was. Huge, major pinnacle climax of the first half of John's gospel. Jesus keeps doing sign after sign after sign after sign, culminating in the greatest possible sign ever. He raised a man from the dead. And he wasn't just dead for 5 minutes. He was dead for days. This guy, Lazarus. I think this town where this occurred is still named after Lazarus today, if you go look it up. I forgot the name, but maybe it's true what I just said. I think it is, okay? But this is a major event in this city, okay? Lazarus is raised from the dead. And they're hosting a supper there for Jesus. Jesus is the guest of honor. Martha, we remember Martha. She is being awesome, like Martha is awesome. She's serving, working so hard, making this meal happen. Lazarus is reclining at the table with Jesus, and Mary is there. Now, this is already one of those like trivia questions. If you could be at a dinner party, you pick 3 people, in history, who would you pick? Well, a lot of people would start out with Jesus, already the best one. What if I could have supper with a guy who was raised from the dead? Pretty awesome, right? This is a really impressive dinner party. You got Jesus, you got a man who was raised from the dead. Probably most of us haven't had supper in those contexts. And you also have a woman named Martha, who is just a pure servant heart, totally awesome, loves Jesus, loves her family. And then you have this woman, Mary, who knows this secret and literally pours out everything she has to honor Jesus because of his death, which is soon to come. So pretty great dinner party here. And we know the story. Mary took out a pound of costly perfume of pure nard, anointed the feet of Jesus, wiped his feet with her hair, and the whole house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. And in a moment, we're going to see that this was worth about 300 denarii, 300 days' wages. So, I don't know, the better part of a year. I don't know how much money you make in a year, but have you ever used that much money to buy some kind of perfume or cologne? This is really, really expensive stuff. It's imported from either India or China. This isn't something she got from the local market. This is extremely expensive stuff. And she pours it out on the feet of Jesus. I doubt any of us have that level of expensive perfume or cologne. Best I ever did in my cologne wearing days when I was dating Tabitha. She probably remembers this. Man, I felt so awesome because I had this cologne that was called Aspen. Did anyone ever hear of that? Yeah. Aspen cologne. That's what I did all the time. I guess I've never apologized to Tabitha publicly for that, but she had to endure it. And I think it smells awesome, but it did not cost $1 million, okay? This is like $2.99 or something. But I felt fancy, and I thought, oh, she must be impressed by this. This perfume, very impressive, very fancy, very expensive, more than anyone else had. To the point where it could cause offense if you just dump it out all at once on someone's feet, which are in about 45 minutes going to get dirty again and gross when he walks home. So, interesting. And Judas brings this up. Judas Iscariot, one of the disciples, John likes to tag him with this phrase, the one who would betray him, intending to betray him. And he brings up maybe what other people were thinking, but didn't want to say it out loud. We don't have to totally blame Judas all the way. We'll blame him for another reason here, but what he's asking makes sense, okay? Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor? Pretty hard to argue against that line of reasoning. Except for his heart and his motive were impure. John tells us, now he said this not because he actually cared about the poor, but he said it because he's a thief. And as he had the money box, he kept the money for the disciples and for Jesus. He used to pilfer what was put into it. He'd rather have that year's wages put in the money bag so he can take from it. he sees it being spilled on Jesus' feet instead. So that's really why he said that. But no one could argue with his point that he said, with the sentence that he said, except for Jesus. Jesus has something to say about this. Jesus says, leave her alone, let her alone, verse 7, so that she may keep it for the day of my burial. Leave her alone so that she may keep it for the day of my burial. This is shocking. No matter how many times Jesus may or may not have said this or talked about it or knew it, there's only one person who has come to understand this idea, that it is Passover week and that Jesus is on his way to the cross. Mary understands that. And when she sees Jesus, she knows that she needs to honor him in the greatest way that she can, with the most extravagant demonstration that she is capable of. And so she pours this expensive perfume on him. Now, Jesus' argument might sound a little callous if you don't know what he's talking about, right? Leave her alone. She can keep it for the day of my burial. You will always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me. Sounds a little insensitive, right? Except it's actually the opposite of that. I'm not trying to help Jesus out here, but it just happens to be the case that he's quoting Deuteronomy chapter 15. Now, Judas knows, all the disciples know, Mary and Martha know, and Lazarus, and all the people in this city, and all of the first century Jews know that the most important thing that you can do is give to the needy, give to the poor. That's the highest form of righteousness. This is the highest form of spirituality. The most God-like thing that you can do is to help a person in need. Top of the list. That comes straight out of Deuteronomy 15, which says, when you see a poor person in land, do not harden your heart. Don't close yourself up to them. Don't look at them with disdain. Don't hate them. Open your hearts and your hands. Give to them. Help them. And the text says, for you will always have the poor in the land. It's the commandment to give to the poor that Jesus is quoting. For you will always have the poor in the land. He's acknowledging that to Judas, to the disciples, that yes, this is the top of the chain. Pinnacle of righteousness, totally agree. Except in first century Judaism, there was only one thing that can supersede this commandment, to give to the poor, to give of your resources. And that came in the context of death. When a relative has died, the care for that body, the burial preparations for that body, supersede all other things, even given to the poor in that special circumstance. This is what Jesus is saying. He says, I agree and love and, want to honor the pinnacle of the commandments. Give to the poor. I'll even quote the verse to you. The poor, you will always have the poor with you. That's exactly what the law says. In the very same verse it says, and give to these people. Yes. But I'm telling you, Jesus says, that the one single only thing that supersedes that is happening right here in this moment. She's preparing a body to be buried. That's what this moment is about. And so that gives the disciples pause. That gives John's readers pause. What a profound insight Mary has into who Jesus is and what's about to happen. But even more than that, the insight that John gives us here is into what does the heart of a disciple look like. This is the secret. Secret about discipleship is that it is going to look over the top, extravagant, illogical. And as one author that I calls it, wasteful. There's an author who calls this scene right here wasteful love. That's where I got this title from. Wasteful love. Wasteful love is something that goes beyond what is logical, goes beyond what is reasonable and rational, and takes it to the level of extravagance. And from anyone looking in from the outside, they look at what you're doing and they say, man, what a waste. That doesn't even make sense. What are you doing? Questioning what is wrong with you. Because why would anyone do that? Why would anyone give of their time, of their resources, of their energy to do something like this? Doesn't make sense. Wasteful love. But it made total sense to Mary. And John says, if you understand why it made sense to Mary, then you'll understand the heart of discipleship, the heart of what it means to follow Jesus in this way that Mary does. Wasteful love. Where does a heart for Jesus and this way of discipleship come from? It comes from the gospel that Mary already understands. Only one there that understands it. But Jesus has been given this gospel all the time. What did we talk about last week? The prodigal son. Talk about the father wasting his time, sitting there. Well, first of all, giving all of his money to his son. What a waste. Why would you do that? Then his son obviously goes off and, as the text says, squanders everything. Well, he's wasting his time just waiting and hope for his son. Why would you sit there and hope? Why would you continue to show love for someone that doesn't love you anymore? Why would you continue to wait patiently for someone to return, to keep loving them? And then finally the son does return, and he runs in what is culturally totally dishonoring for a man to do so, but he's willing to bring shame upon himself and run to his son, wasting all of his honor on this one moment to embrace his son, kills the most expensive fatted cow, has this big party. What a waste, man. This is for a son that just lost everything, wasted, squandered everything that you gave him. What a waste. But not to the Father. The Father says we must celebrate. Remember that? For he was lost and now is found. He was dead and he was alive. This is the type of love that God the Father has for people like you and people like me. How long has God waited for me to repent or to even see and identify things in my life, in your life? How many years, how many decades of pride, of ego, of stubbornness, of selfishness? And yet he waits. Yet he longs for us to return. Yet he longs for us to have that moment where our eyes are opened. Doesn't abandon or forsake us. He waits patiently. All that time, all that energy, all that effort going into convicting our hard hearts. Isn't that a waste? But not to God. God says, that's who I am. Well, to God, it doesn't even enter his mind, is this logical or not? He doesn't understand it from that perspective. He just knows this is what I am. I am love. God is love. This is what Mary is doing here. It doesn't enter her mind, well, is this responsible or not? Is this what I should be doing? It's just the overflowing of God's love that literally is poured out onto the feet of Jesus. It's who she is. It's what her heart has become because of God, because of Jesus. Of course you would do this. That's the secret to discipleship, graduating to that place where you can say, of course this is what we do. Of course this is what I do in this situation. And people on the outside might say, man, that doesn't make sense. What we're doing here, what does wasteful love look like? Well, part of it is coming here on Sunday morning. Why would you do that? Do you know that Sunday morning is the prime day to get stuff done around the house? Get some rest, sleep in, play golf, whatever. It's kind of wasting of your time to do something like this. You could make that argument from the outside. It's kind of weird. It doesn't make sense. But for us that come here on a Sunday morning like this, we don't even think about it. We don't even see it that way. Of course we would come here. We know the value of it. We know what this is about. We don't approach it from those other avenues. Of course, this is what we do. And take hours to come here, gather together, sing, pray, encourage each other, fellowship, sharing a meal together. The stuff that goes on just for Sunday morning itself. These are examples of wasteful love. What about the bulletin or the bulletin boards or the baptistry repair? Why would you waste your time doing that? There's so many other things you could be doing for yourself, but to serve and clean the building and repair stuff around here and help out. It could be seen as waste, as wasteful love. But to us, those things just make sense. Because there's something that supersedes all of it, and it's our heart for God, our heart for one another. What about making the PowerPoint slides or the song leading and the worship planning? What about ministry to the foster moms and the foster kids and the foster families, all the things we're doing? Okay, yeah, we could be using that stuff on ourselves instead. But Mary is teaching us this is what wasteful love looks like. And I want this message to be encouraging and for us to know we are on this path of discipleship as a church. The heart of this church is just like the heart of Mary. I want us to know that. This isn't a guilt trip lesson. It's an encouragement. Look around and see what God is doing here. These things matter, the little things that we do. I could go around to every single person here and come up with a list just like this, of these things that we do, of the overflow of our hearts because of the love for Christ. There's so much more I didn't mention today. But as Jesus is Lord, he's always calling us to do, to be, to see, to give more. I know there are areas in my life where I hold back. Tavla's good at this. She loves to serve. She has a servant heart. That's way more than I do. She does way more than I do. Sometimes I try to call her off of that. Like, why are you doing this? Why you sign up? Why don't you ever, But when she sees opportunities, she's like, of course I do this. This is who I am. Sometimes I'm the outsider and I fail to see these things that Mary sees. And I pray to God to help me soften my heart, to be able to have a heart like Mary in all situations and circumstances. Tavla shows me that and teaches me that. So as we are encouraged by the way that we're following after the heart of Mary, I want us to ask as we close today, ask yourself for the next week, how can I demonstrate extravagant, wasteful love for Jesus this week, even more than I have been doing? Where do I see wasteful love taking place? How can I join in and be a part of it? Let's stand and sing.